We now see how to determine the foci of this ellipse. So we are given this information, that is the center is given as negative 1 comma 2. One of the vertex is given as minus 1 comma 8 and the co-vertex is given as 2 comma 2. So first we plot these coordinates on the coordinate axis. So here I have plotted the center as the negative 1 comma 2 and I have marked that coordinate as O, and one of the co-vertex, that is 2 comma 2, which is marked as Q, and then one of the vertex is marked as negative 1 comma 8. So using these 3 points or using these 2 points, that is one vertex and a co-vertex as well as the center, we can easily do a rough sketch of this ellipse. So the ellipse will look like this. That is, the major axis will be vertical and the minor axis will be horizontal as shown in this diagram of the ellipse. So for this type of ellipse, in fact for any type of ellipse, we will have two foci, which is written as f1 and f2, and the coordinates are given as h comma k plus c, and the coordinates of another foci is h comma k minus c. So to determine the focus, we need to understand the h, k as well as the c. H and k are basically nothing but the coordinates of the center, which we already have. So we can write down h equals negative 1, k equals 2, and so to determine the focus, we need another point, which is c. We need to determine the value of c. We can determine the value of c using this formula: c squared equals a squared minus b squared. But let's see what is a and b. A is basically this length, that is PO. It is half the length of the major axis, and b is basically this length, that is OQ. So I'm going to write down A as in diagram. It is nothing but PO, that is the length PO, and B is the length QO. This basically is nothing but half the length of major axis, and B is half the length of the minor axis. So we can calculate A first. A is basically the distance between the point P and O. Since these 2 points lie on the same vertical line, that is on the same x coordinate negative 1, so just have to simply subtract their y coordinates. So here we have the y coordinates at as 8, and the y coordinate of the center O is 2. So when we do the subtraction, we get 8 minus 2, this equals 6. So we can now say that the value of A equals 6. And similarly, we determine the length of B by finding the distance between the points Q and O. So Q is at a distance, that is the coordinate of Q is 2 comma 2, and the coordinate of O is negative 1 comma 2. So these two lie on the same horizontal axis, which means we just have to find the difference between the horizontal points. That is, at Q it is 2 and at O it is negative 1. So we just have to do the subtraction as like this: 2 minus minus 1, and this becomes 2 plus 1, which equals 3. So we have determined the value of B equals 3. And this means we can plug it into the formula to determine the value of C. So let's do that. Let's write the formula: C squared equals A squared minus B squared. So I'm substituting A equals 6. So therefore this becomes 6 squared minus B is 3, and this becomes a 3 squared. 6 squared is 36 minus 3 squared is 9. So when we do the subtraction, we get 27. So we now know that C squared equals 27, but we have to find the c. So we take a square root on both sides. So we take the square root like this. So when we take the square root, we get 27 square root. This can be written as, if we write the 27 in terms of factors, this is equivalent to 3 times of 3 times of 3. Since we have a pair, if we take the square root, we can just take one of the pair. That is, we just replace one of the pair as 3 and then keep the other number without the pair inside. So basically, the square root of 27 is 3 root 3. Or in fact, if we plug this into the calculator, that is square root of 3, and then multiply with 3, we get approximately as 5.2. So therefore, we can say that the value of C is this is equal to 3 root 3, or in terms of decimal it is approximately 5.2. So we will replace this value of C. So now we have determined the value of C, which means we can determine the foci, that is F1 and F2. So let me write the coordinates of foci, that is F1 is H comma K plus C, and we'll substitute the value of H, which we are already given, that is H is -1. So therefore this becomes -1, comma K is 2, and this will become 2 plus 5.2 because C is 5.2. So this simplifies to -1 comma 2 plus 5.2 is 7.2. So this is one of the coordinates of the foci. Now let's determine another foci, that is another focus. So this is H comma K minus C. Let's substitute the value of H, which is -1, and K is +2, and minus of 5.2. So 2 minus 5.2, and this equals -3.2. So therefore the another coordinate is -1 comma minus of 3.2. So this is another foci. So these are the coordinates of the foci.